Such? Okay. Hi, my name is Jhordina. This summer I was in Walton, Kentucky working with Cummins. And if you don't know anything about Cummins, they're a diesel manufacturing company, diesel engines. And they're also heavily focused on power. So they're going to phase into power. But I work for the Eastern Distribution Center with the Global Logistics Improvement Group. And that is a kind of like a fire group that's sent out to put out fires. So if there's a manufacturing problem at the plant, they'll be sent there. So it was a really cool experience. I learned a lot of problem solving skills. This is the agenda. And then the intern project overview, I'll touch on where I was in my long-term plan. A little bit about myself. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'll be graduating from here in 2019 in December. I played the violin for over 20 years, and I'm the vice president of NSBE at this campus. I'm also an AmeriCorps alumni. AmeriCorps is the domestic peace corps, if you're aware of that organization. And I was awarded the Presidential Volunteer Service Award by President Obama. So, just a little bit about myself. My first project that I worked on was the North American Redistribution Center Minimum Order Quantity Project, otherwise known as MOQs. MOQs are the minimum amount of a part that you can order. So for example, if this cord comes in a pallet quantity, it'll mean that the whole pallet is 40 boxes, so it'll ship in all 40. If it's set to 10, if you want to order one, you have to order at least 10. That's essentially the background of this project. And I'll back up a little bit. So even though I am a mechanical engineering student, my focus is operations research, which is why I went into an operations-based supply chain internship. So for this one, we noticed that the parts were being consolidated too many times. In a warehouse, you have the people who pick the parts, they're called pickers. And you might have to unload the truck, you unwrap it, you put it away, and then you have to do it all again to ship it out. So we found that with certain parts, they were being touched too many times. It's not value added. You're wasting a lot of time and you're cutting down the productivity, that takt time, which is the amount of time it takes to complete a task for your customer. And we found that out of all the trailer picks, 72% were picked individually. So you can imagine the amount of waste that was happening. And this was at our center and the receiving center. So it was a lot of time being wasted. And my role in this was to determine a list of parts per RDC. There were 5 of them: Atlanta, Dallas, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Portland. And to determine a list of parts per each RDC that would be shipped into pallet quantity. And how I determined that was I did 2 phases of analysis. My first phase was, did the part ship more than 3 times per month? If it did, if it was over half a pallet on average, then it was recommended for a pallet MOQ. When on the second phase, and they were done independently, if the average monthly usage, because if I ship it to you over and over and over, I'm going to assume that you're using it. So the AMU, if that was over half a pallet, then it was also recommended for a pallet MOQ. So this is an example of one part that was shipped 10 times per month, but at a half a pallet. But the average was like less than half. So it didn't make any sense for them to ship it that way, order it that way. So it passed both phases of the analysis. So that was my first project. So I was able to come up with a complete list of parts for each RDC. The second one was a transportation trailer swap, and that is operations-based. And this is when Cummins, they wanted to move approximately 90% of their outbound moves to the second shift and receiving on the first. So they wanted to switch how the work was being done on the shop floor. And we wanted to make sure that we had enough capacity to handle the change. So it was up to me to develop a scenario in which it was feasible and allowed for the continuation of yard activities and eliminated the need for new equipment and additional yard driver, which was a $300,000 cost avoidance. And some of the challenges for this one was everything is handwritten because it's so you have to do it so quickly, they don't have tablets to type in, so everything was handwritten, so I had to go through that and get the data out the old-fashioned way. And I also had a really short timeline to turn around this. So how I did it was, I started by quantifying the moves made into the different categories to track outbound and receiving. So receiving is things that are being delivered to you, outbounds are things that you're shipping out. And I went from hard copy to a spreadsheet. The second methodology for this was developing a current state. This is looking at how the moves are distributed between each worker and how they were categorized. And I did it based on percentages because for me it's a little easier to quantify and to visualize the data that way. And then I also track yard motion. So this is a heat map. So the bright red are the doors that are being touched a lot, so that they're receiving a lot of traffic in the yard. So this is essentially the layout of the EDC on first and second shift. And I just track which doors have the most activity. And then to come up with a solution, this is a planned state. The planned state means as you're thinking of it, how is it going to work out? So I worked on the feasibility of it, and it came up with a model of what we want to see. You know, between the two, we wanted to be equitable, so 50% of the work is being done on each shift, but how to distribute it throughout the day. And so I was able to come up with that. So as of right now, there is that $300,000 cost avoidance. So as long as they follow the original model, they'll be successful at that. So I had to do some follow-up work. I retracked the motion, and I looked at the present state as where they were at the time when I received the new data to kind of see where they were off. So they're almost reaching the feasibility state, but they're just off on certain percentages. So that'll be cool to see if they maintain that. Another one is moves into lean manufacturing. So this is a case study of the aftermarket dock desk rotation. So I had to go to a specific location and figure out a better way to improve the walk patterns for the workers, because it's only accessible by one side. So if I'm on this side, I have to go all the way down past the pallets on the loading doors and come right here to print out labels. It's a lot of time wasted and clutter. So I had to come up with schematics for each of these dock doors. There's about 9 in total, and pick the right one to have a demo on. And we had to determine if the change in layout will improve traffic flow, and will those benefits outweigh the cost of the changeover. So I learned a lot about dealing with coworkers that I don't really work with, making sure that you learn how to communicate with people, and essentially work really hard on your communication skills in this one, because you have to get a lot of feedback from the employees, so it's a good experience. Another part of the lean manufacturing, or lean like working, was updating the standard works to reflect actual steps that were being provided. So this is an example of one for cluster picking, and what do you have to do to actually pick a box in that cluster area. So I updated all of these for the department that I work with, and that was good. And then I also updated the walk patterns for these 3 locations. And this was done using Visio, which I hadn't really had a lot of practice doing, so now I'm pretty good at it. And this is just tracking how you make your movements throughout the day when you're doing a specific task. And then I did a lot of lean trainings. I completed all of the ones that were assigned to me. So these are A3 Gembas when you're on the floor and you're actually improving it and tracking, are they sticking to the standard operating procedure and the standard works. So I received a lot of training on that, and I went around and I did a lot of safety, like find it, fix it. So this is clearly a pallet that should have been taken to quality to be reboxed. So that was good. It was a good side too. So there were a couple of classes that I knew were mattering the most when I was doing this. The first one was operations research. I did that class the first time I came to Poly, just out of the blue, and I carried those skills with me to really do a good job on that one. because a lot of people, their entire careers are based off of Excel. You know, and how well they can do that one software. So we have one guy, he's fairly young, 28, and he's the director of that department, specifically because he knew how to do Excel and understood it. So I did a lot of operations research and studying the problem parameters. The other one was Introduction to Engineering and practicing your formal writing and all the engineering design courses. So that was another good class. And logistics and the supply chain really prepared me because we had a huge class-wide project management project that was really beneficial. And then the other one was project management, and that was learning how to be a better team player. Teamwork and setting up a project and evaluating the needs of your stakeholders. So those were the 4 classes that I think benefited me most. Some lessons learned. I had a lot of fragmented skills, but I didn't really know how to do anything, you know, like really do it. So I learned which ones to focus on. I became proficient in those skills. And Cummins has a supply chain academy, which is essentially, they've crammed a degree in supply chain management into 50 hours. So you can just essentially go through these and you become a certified supply chain professional through their academy. So that was pretty good. And I also learned how to end school habits and make decisions based off of top-down analysis. As students, we go right to the answer, we go into the detail very quickly, and they can make decisions based off of averages. You know, and then if they need more requirements or more knowledge, then they start to like move a little bit down closer to the details, but that helped me up a lot. It made me waste a lot of time because I went right to the answer. And then the key takeaway was kind of what Alan said, you know, you can have the ability, but you're not going to get the experience unless you have that education as a doorway to get in there. So the internship was a really good experience for me, and I found a focus with my career in the future. And these were some of the events that I was able to attend. My favorite one was the Toyota tour. They have a plant in Kentucky, and it's massive, and it would never be in Florida because it's too heavy, it would sink, because the robots weigh a ton. It's really cool. So I went there, and then I went to an engine familiarization course. We don't do engines here in this school, but a lot of schools, they have a complete class based on engines. So we did a tear down of a diesel engine, so that was really cool. And then I volunteered with them, and went on the Amazon tour, and then with some soccer games. So it was a good experience for me. And that's a bibliography. Last thing is, I did a good job with the cost avoidance. So when you save them that much money, they're like, okay, you know, maybe we'll value her a little bit more. So I got a co-op for the fall, so I actually won't be here. I moved back on the 27th, so take the semester off, and I'm working with them again full-time for the fall. So I hope to get another great experience out of that. Okay, that was it, my presentation. Any questions?
So I've noticed one of the events you went to was in Kings Island in Ohio. What was that experience like?
You know, it's like we're in Florida, right? So we're spoiled with so many theme parks. But it's a dry park and a wet park at the same time. But it's like a really intense carnival. Is how I would describe Kings Island. And they have, the best thing about it was the cotton candy. They have like pepper cotton candy and cookie dough cotton candy and onion cotton candy. I didn't really think about that. I know, right? It's gross. But it was a good experience.
What about the rides there?
They're good. They're not as intense as like Universal Studios rides or roller coasters. Heavy ones. They're more like the bar sit-down ones. They have one that straps you in, but that's it. Yeah.
What was it with the internship that allowed you to go to so many different places?
So, the group that I was in, they really prided themselves on providing a robust internship experience in that particular facility. So we had the manager, the director, the operations director on site who was like, okay, we're going to provide a really good experience for our interns. So it was really his leadership and leadership of my managers that provided us so many opportunities to interact with each other and have a good time. So it was really cool.
How much were you required to know going into the internship?
I had some experience before in logistics. I was in disaster relief, so I had a little bit of coordinating and shipping knowledge and program management. But I would say I didn't need my junior year. I didn't need to complete the junior year to qualify for it. So what you know based up until maybe your last sophomore year is enough to do an internship like that. If you focus on the right courses. So know a little bit about accounting, know manufacturing, go online, read up on Six Sigma. So those will kind of kick you over the top to get it going like that.
Another question. How early would you recommend doing internships? Not necessarily one of this greater scale, but just internships in general.
Honestly, if you can swing one once a year, there are some that only require high school, so they're looking for maybe a freshman. I would do one every summer and work that out because it's really more important to have the work experience when you're looking for jobs, and having that really good resume that reflects that, so you want that.
I just have a quick question. Yeah. So far as your time management, how do you pull that off basically?
Are you talking about managing the projects?
Yeah.
So I used a Gantt chart to track the progress on each of the deliverables. Essentially, these are all deliverables. So they were given to me at the beginning. I knew I had to complete them all. It was just timing it right. What else? Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it, I worked my butt off. I clocked more hours than the other interns. I was working maybe 60-hour weeks, getting it done, making sure that, I was presenting. I learned how to communicate a little bit more effectively. And now we think of it as being, there's that phrase, mansplaining, but that's just how engineers speak. They will re-explain a topic every time they talk to you about it, and then you set up a meeting to discuss that again. And that's really how it is. So you spend all your time in meetings, so if you don't work extra hours, you're not gonna get any work done, So that's really what I did.
You described my job.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, you're doing all this work, even if they do give you, a deadline.
Yeah.
They're good.
And it's a hard end because it's a hard stop, so I had to complete it by a certain time, and then I had to also present it for the organization leadership, so the global director of logistics. And this is a better presentation than I did for that one because my nerves were shot for that one because they decide whether or not you move on in the company, so that was really good. I really think Cummins is a great company, and they're opening up their new applications for their next interns, so I would definitely apply. Plus, it's really well paid. And full travel reimbursements, they really value you from the minute you get there to the minute you end and a little bit past, so.
Thank you.
Thanks.